Hello. 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 Welcome to the Cloud English Podcast. My name is Luke. It is too loud. It's too loud. Let me lower the volume of the music a little bit. I'm doing many things at the same time. You know, I need a producer to be running this stuff. Kathy's out on an extended leave, unfortunately, and so I'm doing things by myself, unfortunately. Without Kathy, it's really tough to get things done. Well, anyway, it's October 4th. It's 12:36 p.m. It's Friday. Welcome. The year is 1987. Coming to you from 1987. Some people wonder, why is it that I seem to mention a different year at the beginning of each episode? And there is a specific reason, but I can't say what it is right now, although I will tell you that there is a very specific and important reason. And my suggestion would be to write down every single year that you hear at the beginning of each episode. Write them down somewhere, keep a record, because eventually it's going to pay off. Probably, I hope. We'll see. But I don't do it for zero reason. And I'm not lying either. It's true. It's true that I'm actually in that year. Let's see. What else? What is going on what is happening? Let's see. Let's see. What is going on in the year 1987? What's happening in the year 1987? Come on, ChatGPT. Notable for several key events across different domains. In global history, or global politics and history, Cold War developments, the Cold War was winding down, and this saw significant diplomatic movement between the United States and the Soviet Union. Nice. Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty. Well, that's good. Black Monday, October 19th, the global stock markets experienced a significant crash, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average falling by 22.6%, marking what would become known as Black Monday. Unrest in Palestine. The first Intifada began December 1987, a major Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Science and technology, mathematics and computing. The GIF was introduced. Yes, I do pronounce it GIF. You can say GIF if you want. People feel very strongly about that one. There's a big debate around whether it's GIF or GIF. Personally, I always say, 95% of the time I say GIF. And the reason for that is because it's a G and an I. And yes, it does stand for graphical, but you're not saying graphical. You're saying something with GI. And in many cases, if there's an I after a G, then it's a soft G. For example, if an I, E, or Y, so words like giraffe, words like gym or gem, right? Yes, there are words that don't follow that rule, but that's why I say GIF. And the person who founded it also says that. Astronomy, supernova 1987A, the brightest supernova observed since 1604. What kind of cameras were they using in 1604? Was first detected on February 23rd, 1987. Wow. DNA fingerprinting. This year saw the first use of DNA fingerprinting in a criminal investigation. Wow. Culture and entertainment. Michael Jackson released his album Bad. Well, that's a big one, which became another massive commercial success. U2, who cares about U2? Whitney Houston. Okay, great. Film, The Princess Bride. RoboCop, Full Metal Jacket. Dirty Dancing. Wow. Some classics. And The Simpsons made its debut as a series of animated shorts on the Tracy Ullman Show. Wow. Okay. A lot of stuff happening this year. Amazing. Every year is full of exciting stuff. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, we'll get back to this because we're going to check out Canvas later. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about a few things. By the way, right at the beginning, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, subscribing, that would be fantastic. You can join the Discord, that is free. You can also get a free course in the links in the description, and you can get 30% off the yearly membership, which is paid monthly. So it's a really good deal. So you can quit any time, but you're getting the yearly membership price. Very good deal. What else? What else? No, that's about it. I think that's about it. So those here with us live, thank you. Welcome. If you have any questions, pop those in the chat. Those watching after, we do this every Friday, so feel free to join live on YouTube and Facebook. Otherwise, you're welcome to listen on YouTube and Facebook, and also the audio version, the podcast version, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay. So that's basically it. We're going to be getting to some phrasal verbs in this episode. Some interesting, useful phrasal verbs. Very important to learn phrasal verbs. That's going to be our main thing that we're going to do. We're also going to take a look at a clip. We're going to do that next, actually, from Top Gear. That's just because I've been watching it a lot recently. We're going to pick out some useful words and phrases. We're also going to take a look at Canvas, GPT-4o Canvas. I'm going to be experimenting because I haven't used it. It's a new thing. I want to see how it works, if it's different, or what exactly is going on with Canvas. So let's hop into it. GPT candidate. Let me actually pull up. I want to pull up the ChatGPT webpage so that we can explore what it is before we actually do it. Right? I'm gonna be okay. So let's hop into our episode first. Let's do that first. Okay. So I've been watching a lot of Top Gear clips, and also I've been watching a lot of the Grand Tour on Amazon, and it's great. I think that even if you don't like cars, which I don't really care about cars, but somehow the three main hosts of the old Top Gear and the Grand Tour, James May, Jeremy Clarkson, and Richard Hammond, they just have this beautiful, timeless comedic balance that's just perfect. It's one of the best relationships on television, in my opinion. And the humor, they're all really, really funny. I think my real opinion is that most American TV lacks the kind of humor that I appreciate. There is one type which is kind of funny, which is sort of absurd American humor, which I do enjoy, but generally speaking, I always have resonated more with the dry British sarcastic style of humor, which it's funny in the moment. It's improvisational because it's kind of an attitude, less about jokes. I feel like American humor is more about, oh, you said a funny joke, or you said a funny line, and that should make people laugh, right? Laugh. You should laugh. And then it goes back to being serious. So it's either jokes or serious. I feel like American TV shows, it tends to be, I don't know, kind of too sincere, too just superficial and sincere. Whereas a lot of British shows, when there is humor as an element, it's more natural. It's more about the character of the person. It's a deeper level. Everything there's a way to find something funny in every moment, right? Something happens. I mean, do you think that an American host could make a show about farming funny? Jeremy Clarkson, who's the host, he has an Amazon show about farming. I started watching it. It's actually really funny. How can someone make a funny show about farming? One of the topics that is least funny, how can that be funny? Well, you have to be a funny person in a certain type of way. And I think British humor is more like that than American humor, personally. Just my opinion. All right. So let's get into it. We're going to be pulling up words and phrases as we go, but this is kind of older.
May I, chaps, bring your attention?
Okay. Actually, first thing, chaps. We don't say chaps in America. Although I wish we did. What do we say? Americans say, guys, may I, guys, or can I, guys, can I? That's how an American would say that. May I, chaps, guys, can I? I also like chaps better than guys, personally. Although, guys is useful because... Guys is more useful because it's not gendered anymore if it's more than one person. So it can be boys and girls, men and women, and you can use guys. But chaps, it's only for men, as far as I know.
To this. It's an Audi RS4,
Oh, we
doors
skipped
open.
one. Like, we got to go back a little bit. Here we go.
Audi RS4, doors open. Chaps, bring your attention to this. It's an Audi...
Can I bring your attention to this? Let's listen to that one more time.
Now, may I, chaps, bring your attention to this.
So, okay. Can anybody say, bring your attention and not sound formal? Not really. So it's a kind of formal phrase. Let me bring your attention to when people are focusing on one thing, or it's time to transition, or change to a new topic, or get people to, well, pay attention to something when they weren't before. Can I bring your attention to this? I'd like to bring your attention to this. I want to bring your attention to this graph. Let me bring your attention to the picture we're looking at here. I want to talk about something, right? So basically to get people to focus on that. But it's not casual. When you say it, it sounds really formal, right? So a casual way to say that would be, hey, check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Look at this. Did you see this? What do you think about this? Right? Something like that would be a more casual way to say it. I think there is a time and a place when you're presenting something, when it's really important, when you would want to make it a bit more formal. I think the funny part here, though, is that he's saying, can I bring your attention to this? And it's a toy car. So it's stupid. So it's this formal way of saying something that's actually very silly.
It's an Audi RS4, doors open, bonnet opens, boot, and if I turn the steering wheel, look, can you see that? It actually turns the wheels. Now, I bought this from a major West London retailer the other day for $19.99, which means they're selling it to the retailer.
If you didn't hear it, it's a major West London retailer. Same as saying store.
$19.99, which means they're selling it to the retailer, whoever makes it, for a tenner. So why don't they just make it the size of a car? Because it wouldn't be more than 100 quid.
Okay, so he's saying, why don't they just take toy cars and make them much bigger to make it the size of a car?
Jeremy, it hasn't got an engine.
Well, how hard can that be? I mean, I know engines are a bit fiddly. Say 30 quid for the engine.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. Listen for this one.
100 quid.
Jeremy, it hasn't got an engine.
Well, how hard can that be? I mean...
Well, how hard can that be? How hard can it be? How hard can it be is when you feel like somebody has presented something that is unknown to do, right? Oh, I don't know, hiking up a cliff or finishing something by the end of the day, stacking things, anything that you could succeed or fail at, right? And someone says, how hard could it be? How hard can it be? How hard could that be? It's interesting because one meaning of this is basically, I think this is going to be easy. That's what this one is. This one is saying it can't be that hard. What it means is it can't be difficult to do this. It's got to be easy. So here, I want to take this toy car. I think they should just make toy cars, which function, they have a steering, make it bigger. How? It doesn't have an engine. Hasn't got an engine, I guess Brits say. Hasn't got. Americans tend to say doesn't have. Same thing. Well, how hard could that be? Meaning it can't be hard. It must be easy to just add an engine. Now, sometimes, how hard could it be? How hard can it be? This is used when we actually don't know how hard could it be, but we're ready to take it on. So it may actually be hard, it may be easy, I don't know, but I'm eager to just do it. So in this clip, it means that's going to be very easy, that probably won't be very hard. But in general, it can also mean, I don't know, but I'm willing to try. Let's do it, basically. So it hasn't got an engine. Well, how hard could that be? How hard could it be? Let's go back a little bit.
Well, how hard can that be? I mean, I know engines are a bit fiddly. Say 30 quid.
Okay, that's another one. I know engines are a bit fiddly. Okay.
Well, how hard can that be? I mean, I know engines are a bit fiddly. Say 30 quid for the engine, £130.
Okay. So what is something that's fiddly? Well, fiddly, if it's very complicated, it's kind of inconvenient because it's complicated. So a car engine, obviously, is very complicated, has many parts, many things moving around. Yes, so a way to make that sound, I don't know, it's very complicated. A way to make that sound not so bad maybe is to say a bit fiddly. I think this is more of a British expression than an American expression. I mean, Americans may use it. Often we'll use it as a verb, though. So if you have something that's a bit fiddly, you need to often adjust things. It's complicated, so you have to move parts and fix pieces here and there when things go wrong. We often use to fiddle with something when we're trying to figure out something that's complicated. Or some little toy, I'm fiddling with it to try to maybe fix it or figure out how it works. It's to move something or adjust it or tweak it or change it. To play with it possibly, as a way to learn about it. It's a bit fiddly. I remember one time I got a toy for Christmas, and I won't name names, but somebody who was there thought, I'm going to take Luke's toy. It was, let's say, not a cousin, someone older, okay, wanted to figure out how this toy worked at Christmas. Without asking me, thought it'll be no big deal to figure out how it works, take it apart, and put it back together. It shot foam discs out. It was like a little gun with foam discs. Well, he fiddled with it to fiddle with the toy gun. He fiddled with it, and it broke. Or at least, maybe it broke, or maybe he just couldn't figure out how to put it back together. Anyway, I never got to play with that toy, and I was very upset. And I'm still upset, to be honest with you, because he fiddled with my Christmas present that I never got to play with and destroyed it. And so, I'm still working through that pain. But I guess the lesson there is don't play with children's toys. Let them play with their own toys. Okay, let's go back here.
Real car size with an engine.
So scale up.
You see where I'm going? Why are cars so
Oh, I forgot to write that one down, but that's a good one. You see where I'm going.
You see where I'm going? Why?
Can I add that? Nah, let's not worry about it. You see where I'm going. This is a really useful phrase to say, we're not quite at the conclusion yet, but based on what I've said so far, I think now you can start to guess what I will say, what my conclusion will be. What is he saying? Where is he going? He wants to say, why are real cars so expensive? If we just make toy cars bigger and put an engine in them, they should cost $100. Stupid, right? I mean, funny, but ridiculous. But yes, I see where you're going. So we would say, I see where you're going. I think I see where you're going with that. Then we would start to join the conversation, right? You might use that to say, I'm following along. I'm getting your point, even though you haven't said the conclusion, even though you haven't made your main, maybe, statement to say what you believe. I see where you're going, and I want to stop you. I see where you're going with this, and I think we should stop now. I don't like where you're going with this. That sort of expression is very common. I don't know why I didn't put that one down. I apologize.
Why are cars so expensive?
No, it's interesting, actually, because this is a Range Rover Sport. And look at this, the bonnet fits better than it does on the real one.
Okay, so I guess that's a criticism of the the maybe production quality or the production standards or the Q&A checks of Range Rover. I don't know enough. I don't have a Range Rover. I've never owned a Range Rover, so I don't know if that's an issue. But if it is, that means that maybe they have. That's a common complaint about Teslas too, is that they ship them out and sometimes they have big gaps between the doors and things like that.
It's interesting actually, because this is a Range Rover Sport, and look at this, the bonnet.
So British people say bonnet. Americans call this the hood. When it comes to cars, we have some different words. So bonnet, hood. Bonnet, hood. Americans use the word bonnet for something that Amish women wear or something like that. It's a sort of visor with a head covering. An Amish person wears a bonnet. Or people in the 1800s wore bonnets. The front of a car, though, the part that lifts up, that's the hood. Brits say for the back of the car, the boot. The boot. Americans use boot for the thing they put on their feet. Boots. I'm wearing boots. And the back of the car, the stuff that you put stuff in, that's called the trunk. The trunk, which British people use for a box that holds stuff, like Harry Potter's trunk that he uses to go to school. That's a trunk.
Fits better than it does on the real one.
Even if it's 500 quid.
So you scale them up to be full size?
Well, you don't need to scale that up. You're right.
They keep saying scale up. Scale up just means to take something at its current level and go bigger with it. You can scale up a physical thing, take this car and scale it up. That makes it bigger, keeping every dimension the same proportion, the same ratio. That's what it means to scale up. All the ratios are the same. The dimensions, the proportions are the same. It's just bigger or more. But you can also scale up companies, projects, right? So, okay, we figured this out with 3 people. Now let's hire 20 more and keep doing the same thing. But we have to make sure we can scale up. So it's not just about hiring 20 more people. It's about figuring out how to maintain the same level of efficiency, the same processes with those 20 people. And if that works, let's hire 200 people. So that's a process of scaling or scaling up. Why do I keep skipping ahead?
It's pretty much perfect, actually.
It's Hammond size.
But the doors don't open.
See, all I'm saying is I want to get toy car makers to make their toys bigger, and then we can drive it out. It's even if it's 500 quid.
So you scale them up to be full size?
Well, you don't need to scale that up. You're right.
They always joke about how short Hammond is. Hammond's the guy holding that. You don't need to scale that up, meaning you're small.
Pretty much perfect, actually.
It's Hammond size.
But the doors don't open.
See, all I'm saying is I want to get toy car makers to make their toys bigger, and then we can drive about in them.
No.
What?
Safety.
You haven't thought this through.
Well,
Okay, now let's talk about thinking something through. Okay, he's saying, okay, he's entertaining this ridiculous idea, right? Raising possible concerns, one concern being safety. If you scale up toy cars, why don't we just drive around in big toy cars with engines? Which I think is genius. I think that is a great idea. What about safety, though? You haven't thought this through. So to think something through, to think it through means you go through all the steps in your mind to maybe really understand how something works or what could fail if we do this, or what challenges we might encounter, or, you know, these don't have to be things that would cause us to fail, but could be just difficulties, right? So sometimes you have an idea, but then you think it through and say, I'm not going to do it because of the costs, right? You know, I wanted to start a candle company, but after I thought it through, I decided not to because the market is just so saturated. I think it would be difficult to advertise. So to think it through is to go into your mind and walk through the steps of actually doing that thing, right? Going through the things that haven't happened yet and may never happen, so that you can then realize something, kind of see something that could happen, anticipate something, right? And you could ask people to do that if you think that they're being rash, if you think that they've made a foolish judgment, well, you gave up already? Think it through, right? Most people give up at the beginning, and so actually that reduces the amount of competition. If you really think it through, I think it's a good idea, right? So you're saying, I want you to take more mental steps, and then you will come to a new realization. You'll realize something else, right? So it's actually a great little phrase. It gets people to go inside their heads and model out a situation, right? Project things forward, anticipate. Pretty useful. Okay.
How fast can a bowler bowl a ball, a really fast cricketist? Anyone?
100.
100 miles an hour?
Yeah.
100 miles an hour, right? So you hand when the ball goes.
When I hear the word bowler, I think of someone bowling a bowling ball, but bowling is also, I think, what they do in cricket, which I know nothing about.
Right, so, excuse me, everyone, I'm just going to pop down here. Now, I'm not a cricketist, okay, so let's say that when this leaves my hand, like a kid, it's 50 miles an hour, okay? But this is 18 scale, so that's actually 900 miles an hour. That's faster than the speed of sound, okay?
I think what he's saying there is because the car would scale up, you have to scale everything up. So pushing it at a certain speed, you scale up the speed too. I think that's what he's saying. It's truly insane.
Ready? I'm going to get it good. Oh, the steering's. You have to do it with the wheel. Ready? 900 mile an hour impact.
That is pretty astonishing. No, you're right. These things are...
It hasn't even got a paint chip. 900 miles an hour.
So hang on.
I've just tested that out.
This is an audio...
Okay, to test that out. I've just tested that out, tested it out. Okay, to test something out is to have an idea or a theory and then to put it into action immediately to see if it's right, right? So, you've got an idea for this candle company. Let's test it out. Let's see if there's any interest. Maybe let's work on a little ad campaign or put out a survey or make one and see if we can sell it on Etsy. Let's test it out. What's the difference between test it and test it out? Well, if we just say let's test it, usually we're talking about having the thing here and seeing if it works and, undoing this and making sure that it can do the thing that it's supposed to do, right? Or being in a lab, putting chemicals together, or being a safety inspector, right, who's supposed to make sure something works. But to test something out, if you have that whole phrase, let's test that out, let's test it out. Well, that's kind of a different process. That's about having a hypothesis, a theory, an idea. And then we go out and we do some action to see if there's any value in our idea, to see if our idea might work in the future, right? So there's a bit of a difference between test and test it out. I mean, the core idea is the same, but when we hear test it out versus just test it, we think different things. When I hear test it out, I'm thinking, okay, this person has an idea they're trying to validate or prove. And if I hear just test, I'm thinking of somebody looking at one particular thing, seeing if there's a thing that's supposed to work that isn't working, or making sure it's safe or something like that, right? So they can be the same. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes they mean exactly the same thing, but the connotation tends to be different.
RS6 Avant. This is an estate car. It's at 1/40th scale. If I drop it from 10 feet?
Another short joke.
Come on, that's 10 feet. So that's the equivalent of what, James? That's like a 400-foot drop in a car. That would break an ordinary car, and it's rolled. That was a horrendous crash in full size.
And
not a mark.
Is it seriously not marked?
Not a mark. They're very tough.
Have we just solved the car industry's problems?
Okay, so have we just solved the car industry's problems? This is not really a question that needs to be answered. Anytime you hear something like that, it's making the statement, I think we have, right? But making it a question is interesting because It gets people to think more about it. It's often something you use at the beginning of a presentation, right? Have I just figured out, right? Have we just, or you could ask a different type of rhetorical question like, what would you do if, or can you imagine trying to, right? This sort of question doesn't need to be answered by anybody. It's called a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is sort of like making a statement with the, let's say, wrinkle that it is a question and kind of supposed to get people to think more about it, right? Him saying, we have solved the car industry's problem is different than saying, have we just solved the car industry's problem? It makes it a bit less certain, right? A bit less confident, but also it's maybe getting people to think more about it. But also it's a joke. So he doesn't actually think this, so it's a complete joke. So there are kind of different layers here, right? As a rhetorical question, if that's a serious statement, it might make people think, yes, interesting. As a joke, because it's not solving the car industry's problem, because what they're saying is complete nonsense, toy cars being bigger to solve the car industry's problem, right? As a joke, it is now that has a funny layer on top of it of I'm making this serious statement about how I think we've solved the car industry's problem while making an absurd statement about toy cars becoming big and these crazy assumptions about how physics works and how far cars fall and how gravity works and things like that. So it's interesting how there are a couple different layers to it.
General
I
Motors,
think it's a
General
significant
Motors is over. Corgi, it's the future.
What's over?
General Motors.
I think it's a significant
General Motors is over.
Oh, General Motors is over. The car company.
Corgi, it's the future.
What is
Last week,
Corgi?
we
Is Corgi a
discovered that
toy
the
company?
Americans have finally learned how to make
All right, we're going to not watch the rest of this because it's not really relevant. They're just talking
decent
about
car.
a car.
This week, we've
a car
discovered
model.
that they've forgotten again.
So we'll skip that. So some interesting phrases. Let's just go over those again quickly. Bring your attention to something. How hard can it be? A bit fiddly. They have those differences with describing pieces of cars, hood versus bonnet, trunk versus boot. To think it through, to kind of model it out in your mind. Testing something out, a little bit different than just testing something, the connotation. And we talked about rhetorical questions. And there was the other phrase that I brought up that I didn't write down that I now forget. I don't have it at the top of my mind, so I forget now. Anyway, hopefully some useful words and phrases there. Check out Top Gear. Old episodes of Top Gear are just as good, and the Grand Tour show is really good too. Looks like we've got some people in the chat. Great. Susanna, hello. Hey, my dear wife is watching. Hey, Mushroom. I'm just now checking the chat. Job, hello. Is that pronounced correctly? J-O-B. I pronounced that Job, like the book of Job. And Susanta Karina, hello. Welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Sorry, I was not looking at the chat. I actually had it closed up to this point. I apologize. Anyway, if we have any questions about anything as we go, let me know. But let's what I want to do is I want to play with something that's I want to just check something out, and I kind of want to do it live. I haven't done it before, but it is a new mode. One thing I often do is, we play with new features of things like ChatGPT, but there's a new one that I want to check out. I just want to spend a little bit of time looking at this, and then we're going to go to phrasal verbs. By the way, if you're just joining, welcome. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Get a free course in the links in the description of the video. If you're watching and you'd like to listen, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the podcast platforms. If you're listening and you'd like to watch, you can do that on YouTube and Facebook live every Friday, anywhere between 12 and 1 p.m. And let's see what else. Grab a course, free course, links in the description. Or you can, I suppose, and it doesn't have to be one or the other, you can get a 30% discount on the 12-month membership to all of the courses on the website. So check that out in the links in the description as well. It's a special coupon code. Okay. So there's this new thing. I want to check out, and it's called, I'm going to go over here to, this is an announcement, October 3rd, 2024. It is now October 4th, 2024. And it's called Canvas. And I want to play with it, but before I do, because I haven't yet, I want to understand what the heck it is. A new way of working with ChatGPT to write and code. So presumably write, I don't know, articles, blogs, things like that, and code. So we're introducing Canvas, a new interface for working. I often use ChatGPT to collect ideas, consolidate things, put together first drafts, go back and forth, brainstorming, that sort of thing. We're introducing Canvas, a new interface for working with ChatGPT on writing and coding projects. Canvas opens a separate window, allowing you and ChatGPT to collaborate on a project. This early beta introduces a new way of working together, not just through conversation, but by creating and refining ideas side by side. That sounds interesting. Canvas was built with GPT-4o and can be manually selected in Model Picker while in beta. Starting today, we're rolling out Canvas to GPT Plus and Team users. We also plan to make Canvas available to all GPT free users when it's out of beta. Okay, so what can I do? People can use ChatGPT every day, or people use ChatGPT every day to write and code. Although the chat interface is easy to use and works well for many tasks, it's limited when you want to work on projects that require editing and revisions. That is true. I would say that's a pain point. Obos, hello, welcome, Obo. I have a question. What is the difference between another and other? Okay, that's a good one. I'll get to that question. Good question. So with Canvas, ChatGPT can better understand the context of what you're trying to accomplish. You can highlight specific sections to indicate what exactly you want ChatGPT to focus on, like a copy editor. Okay, a copy editor would be useful too. You control the project in Canvas. You can directly edit text or code. There's a menu of shortcuts for you to, suggest edits, adjust the length, change the reading level, add final polish, checking for grammar, clarity, and consistency, and adding emojis. And I think it looks like it's kind of in the sidebar that we use it, and here's the editor. All right, okay. We can do the same thing for coding as well. So can we just try it out? Oh, and it can also make graphs. Okay, we're not going to read through this whole thing, but okay, I think I have an idea. So what do I do? Let me just put in here. Let me do this. I've been working on just a concept for a video about memes and the evolution of language. I've got some bullet points. Some bullet points as an outline. What if I just paste it in and see what happens and play with the editor? I'm just curious to see how it actually works. Okay, so the evolution of language, invoking meaning beyond words. Throughout human history, we've shared some fundamental ways of communicating. A smile, a nod, basic biological responses are universally understood across cultures. Okay, all right, so now what I'm seeing is I can edit this text. So usually this is not text that you can change. Let me see if I can just type here. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's cool. So normally with ChatGPT, you have to copy and paste everything to change something. right? So I would have to copy the whole text or pieces of a text and then paste it in with the changes. But this is allowing me to actually work with the text. Consider Star Trek's Darmok episode, where Captain Picard encounters the Temerian species. Okay, so let me go down to Julie and Jane's theory of the bicameral mind offers, and let's see, I'm just going to select this sentence of this paragraph. Now let's go to the intro, because that's usually where the issues are. Let's say I think it's generic. I don't know, it's actually not bad, but let's say I think this introduction is a bit generic. So I can make it bold. Nice. What else can I do? I can ask ChatGPT. Edit or explain. Make this a bit less generic and use a more interesting hook. Okay, let's try that. Oh, there's a kind of white animation, and instead of giving me a whole new version, it's changing it in the document. That is pretty cool. For millennia, humans have communicated through universally understood gestures, a smile, a nod, a simple primal response that transcends language barriers. Okay. Now, what else can I do? There's a quote. Oh, okay. So you can select whole paragraphs. There's this plus sign on the right side where you can edit or explain. Let's see. I want a bit more detail for this paragraph, explaining what happens in this episode and why it is relevant. This is actually pretty cool. But can I control the versions? Okay, so I've asked ChatGPT that, and now it's made a revision. But, okay, how do if I want to go back, oh, okay, so I just do the back button to do the previous version. That's pretty cool. So there's a back button, there's a forward button, so if I go back, it should change that. You're viewing a previous version. Restore this version to make edits, or I could restore. Okay, and then it's got a little bit more detail about what happens. A story understood collectively, embodying ideas of cooperation and struggle. Their language invokes meaning, creating instant comprehension through shared experience. This might just be a glimpse into the future of human communication, a world where we rely less on direct descriptions and more on shared references, which is kind of the core idea of the video I'm working on. Okay, and there's some formatting things here. Now, is that all we can do? Is that all we can do? What if I hit X here? What happens? Is there anything else I can actually work on? I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. Just the ability to be able to edit in line without having a billion versions. You know, one of the things that makes it frustrating when you're trying to create something or work on anything is that you have these like 30 different versions in one chat, and that makes it very frustrating because you have sometimes something from the first version, you have to scroll up 10,000 miles and find the thing in the first version and then scroll all the way down, and it's really frustrating. So being able to work on one thing like a document is actually pretty cool. Okay, I have correctly said your name. Job, not a common name. I only know it from the biblical story, the story of Job, which is probably my favorite book of the Old Testament. Not probably, definitely. Job is the best book. Job is the most interesting story in the entire Old Testament of the Bible, in my opinion. Pretty cool. Okay, what if I now just X out of this? What do I get? Oh, okay, so now it has the whole thing as a kind of unit, and then I can go back into it by expanding it with this button. I can go back into the editor. Oh, I like that. I like that. Okay. I would like a few more examples in this paragraph. So it seems to be working in units of paragraphs rather than sentences. Okay, now it mentioned that I could spell check. How do I spell check then? It said I could do a spell check. Let's just ask, can Now, can I spell check the whole document? I mean, it wrote it, so it's probably spelled correctly. Oh, but now it's all gray, and now it's going through the whole thing. It's kind of sliding down. I'm following it. It's a line. It's going through the whole document and spell checking it. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So it's not a button where you just click check spelling. But I don't know what it's done. I would like to see. So one frustration I have with ChatGPT is that when you write a version and then you have an updated version, you can't see what's different, right? And so in order to make a revision, I want to know how much has been changed. So then I have to go through it, the entire thing. So what I do is I tend to ask for the changes to be in bold, and then I can see what's different. So I guess I have to ask that. Unfortunately, I wish it was just pink or something like that, and I could see what was different. But all right, let's try this. I want you to decrease the reading difficulty of the entire text to a 5th grade level. I want all changes to be marked in bold or a different color. Let's try this. I'm just curious what happens. Okay, so it's doing the thing where it goes, ooh, it's going through. Is it in bold? Yes. Yes, a shared cultural reference. Okay, so let's go back and let's see what it was before. Okay, wait, let's go forward. First paragraph, these basic actions are easy to understand. And then if I go back, simple primal responses. Okay, a lot has changed. It's kind of hard to see what's been changed, even though it's in bold now. Language is full of meanings. Okay, what language? Is that the same? It's so different that I can't even find. Okay, language carries nuance, context, and history. And then language is full of meanings and cultural references. I actually like this 5th grade version better. It reads more smoothly. For thousands of years, people have communicated using simple gestures, like a smile or a nod. These basic actions are easy to understand, no matter where you are from. But when we try to use complex language, it can be hard to understand each other. Language is full of meanings and cultural differences that don't always translate well. This makes real understanding difficult. Think about the Star Trek episode called Darmok. Okay, so I actually like this version better. It's simpler. It's pretty clear. And I kind of like how it's editing. I just wish that it would kind of tell me more clearly what is different. Can you tell me, can you make a list of the changes that were made? Let's see. Let's see what happens here. It's going through. It's not making a list, is it? No. No, it's not. I don't know what it's doing here. It's going through something. No, there's no list. Okay, so let's close this. And let's go to the main chat. Oh, okay, so it made the list. It made the list below the edited document. Oh, okay, I can deal with that. What are some of the other things that I can do with Canvas in my document? This is the last thing I'm going to check. I'm just exploring this because, and I think you could do the same thing for an email. If you have a work-related email and you want to change the tone, maybe you want to make it formal or more casual, right? I think that this would be a really cool tool for doing that. Really cool. Let's see. What is this? With the Canvas feature in your document, you can do a variety of tasks. Edit. Okay, we did that. Change the tone, yes. Expand or shorten, okay. Enhance style, add hooks, transitions. Provide feedback, add comments, okay, yep. Content restructuring, we kind of did that. Content generation, okay, so we could come up with an idea. Formatting and readability. Oh, yeah, let me check out the formatting. This is the last thing I want to do, and then we'll get into our phrasal verbs here. Okay, so I want to open this up again, and I want to work on formatting. I don't really like the way that this looks, this white gradient. That's very weird. From a user interface standpoint, having this be pure gray and white or dark gray, light gray is not as intuitive as something like, I don't know, a Google Doc where you can actually change colors, or you can a little bit more easily edit things. I'm not wild about the actual interface here. I like the changes you can make, but I'm not crazy about the interface. What was I going to say? Okay. I want to, let's see, what do I want to do? What did I say I wanted to try? I already have forgotten what I want to try. It was the last thing in their suggested list of a memory of a goldfish here. I want to, test the readability a bit. Okay, so let's go back. Formatting. I would like this to be more like an article with some bullet points and, let's say, short paragraphs. Let's just see what we get here. Okay. Let's see if we get more bullet points. Yes, we have more bullet points. Nice, nice. Interesting. Tim says, I like your lessons and courses on Udemy. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. I just launched a brand new course. The course is called Master the TOEFL IBT with ChatGPT and AI. It's basically a 12-hour course on using ChatGPT specifically for exam preparation, specifically the TOEFL exam. Now, I guess you could probably ask the question, well, why in the world would I want to take a course like that if I'm not preparing for the TOEFL? And I think that's fair enough, to each their own, although I will say it is a great way to challenge yourself to improve your language skills in all 4 areas: writing, listening, reading, speaking, which you normally might not do. It's basically simulating the entire test, including how to get a score, feedback on every section, every question type, generating lectures, generating transcripts for conversations, passages, the questions for each of those, testing your comprehension, exercises for working on all 4 skills. So I think it's a really good course. Again, it's 12 hours long. It's pretty intensive. So if you're looking into trying to improve your English skills and you want to really challenge yourself, whether you're going to actually take the TOEFL or not, I think it's worth it. I think it's a good deal. It's currently on sale. I usually do a launch sale. I don't have the code right now. What is the code? So if you go to Udemy and you find the course, you can just search my name to find me on Udemy. It's also in the links in the description. You can put in the code. What is the code? Hold on a second. Let me find the discount code for the course. The code is, one second, I'm almost there. I'm just looking on my other screen here. The code is launch sale. Oh, that's a simple code. One word, LAUNCHSALE, launch sale. You get the best possible price there. Again, even if you're not taking the TOEFL, I still think it's worth it because it's going to push you a lot, and it's going to be very well-rounded, working on all of the skills. You don't like working on reading comprehension or writing? Yeah, it will force you to, basically. It will force you to. Okay. All right. Let's get on to our phrasal verbs. Let's get on to our phrasal verbs, shall we? Shall we? Do I have any coffee left? A little bit. Okay. Not much. Not much. All right, let's get on to phrasal verbs, phrasal verbs, phrasal verbs, phrasal verbs, phrasal verbs, phrasal verbs. Okay. Where it's yeah. All right. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'm just going to check one thing. If you give me a moment before we continue with that. I just need to double check my slides on one point. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to hit some... Let me just double check one thing really quickly. So sorry. So sorry. My slides are not behaving as they should, unfortunately. So I just need to make sure of something before we continue. Is that right? Unfortunately, as I said, Kathy is on extended leave, and because of that, I'm having to do a lot of the show production myself. You know, Kathy said, can I go on leave? I said, absolutely not. She said, please. I said, no way. I need you, Kathy. I need you. And, but I said, okay. All right. Well, I think we might have to skip it for today. Unfortunately, due to an issue with slides, we might have to skip the phrasal verbs for today, or those phrasal verbs for today. But you know what? Let's do it a different way. Let's do it, as I often like to do things, in ChatGPT. I don't want to leave you hanging. All right, so we'll start a new chat, and I'll have to curate these as we go. We're not going to use Canvas. We're going to use 4.0. Okay. Let's explore 6 phrasal verbs, each with at least 2 meanings. We'll get to a final list, and maybe we'll make some flashcards out of them. Let's see. Do we want to do breakdown? Breakdown is not bad. Yeah, I like breakdown. Take off, we're going to skip. That one, we've covered that one before. Run into, we'll skip. Let's use number 1, and number... let's use number 1 and number 6. But I want a few less common ones. Okay. Fall apart. That one's pretty good. Hand over. I like that one too. Yeah. Okay. Okay, these are good. But I want 6. What do we want to do? 6 or 8? Let's just do 6. 6 total, and each with 2 example sentences. Okay. Okay, here are 6 common phrasal verbs. 1, fall apart. 2, hand over. Run out. I like run out. Hold off. Yeah. Okay, let's do hold off. Give in. Well, give in. Give in. Give in only has one. Okay, let's do a different one instead of give in. Make sure it has multiple meanings. Okay? Let's see what we get here. Okay, 1, back out. All right, I like back out. Okay. All right, give me all 6 of these. I like that. I like when it has a sort of very literal, fixed meaning and also a less literal, less obvious meaning. All right, we recovered. I had an unexpected issue with slides, and we recovered. Thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you for helping. You don't get what you want the first time, but then it gets better if you state clearly what you want and what you don't want. Okay. Fall apart. To fall apart. Okay, number 1, to disintegrate or break into pieces physically. The chair fell apart when I sat on it. After years of use, the old book began to fall apart. To lose emotional stability or control. This is meaning 2. He started to fall apart after hearing the bad news. She tried to stay strong, but eventually she fell apart under pressure. Okay, let me add a little bit of additional explanation for these. So for the first meaning, this is what I would call the literal meaning of fall apart. That means you can actually see it happening. Now, if the chair fell apart when he sat on it, that's an immediate thing that happened. So fall apart in the literal sense also has 2 kind of meanings, or maybe 2 connotations. One is a thing just goes like that. Right? It fell apart because it wasn't maybe well built. It's usually a sudden thing. The other one is something falling apart because of wear and tear or over an extended period of time, over many years perhaps. Now this usually is for something that has multiple parts. So, and you could say that a book with pages those are the parts of the book. But for example, a blanket, you might not describe that as falling apart so much. A falling apart would be something like, I don't know, a shed with, wood pieces on it, or a book, or an old computer, or something like that, right? A bicycle, a rusty old bicycle. Whereas a blanket might be, the blanket, you could say fall apart, but it would be more likely to say the blanket gets worn out, right? Or it wears down or something like that. Again, you can say fall apart for something like a blanket that doesn't have multiple pieces, but it's less common. Okay, so you've got those 2 things. One is basically right now it's going disintegrating, falling apart in that way. Maybe you build a sandcastle, right? And then you pour water on it. It just goes bloop, like that. It fell apart. You can say that. It was together, and now it's apart. And then this other one is this gradual decay, this wear and tear over time. Now, the emotional meaning is based on the literal meaning. Often for phrasal verbs, and this is kind of people get stressed out about phrasal verbs. And the reason they get stressed out is because you have these phrases. Phrasal verbs are made up of usually a verb and a preposition or a verb and an adverb. Typically, what happens is you have a phrasal verb that means 2 things, and that's stressful because I have this one thing which means 2 things or 3 things. Well, the good news is that most of the time, a lot of the time, the literal meaning kind of hints at the non-literal meaning or the less physical meaning. And it's the same here. So if we can imagine the sandcastle falling apart or the car falling apart or whatever, if someone is falling apart emotionally, they're not physically falling apart. But we can understand that concept in a non-physical way. unstable, always upset, not able to handle a difficult situation emotionally, right? My job is causing me to just fall apart. Physically, I'm fine. Look, here I am. My body's here. Hi. But I'm falling apart emotionally because of the stress and the deadlines and the politics and all of this stuff. It's causing me to fall apart. It's not something you can see, but it's happening on the inside. And it's a feeling that I have, right? He started to fall apart after hearing the bad news. And again, just like we have with the literal physical definition there, you have these two within the emotional meaning of fall apart. One is he started to fall apart after hearing the bad news. So that could be he heard the bad news, right? And then over the next 5 minutes, just a total breakdown, basically, emotionally. Just, can't handle this situation. It's an immediate thing. But also then you have the more gradual thing. She tried to stay strong, but eventually she fell apart under the pressure. That could happen after years of work. I recently saw an interview with the head of something at SpaceX, and she just eventually, the pressure of working for Elon Musk every day and not being able to see her, son sometimes caused her to kind of fall apart eventually, and she quit because she couldn't handle it anymore, right? So it's interesting how they reflect on each other. They're similar in meaning, even though they're totally different. Okay, hand over, meaning 1, to pass control or responsibility to someone else. Example, she handed over the presentation to her colleague. The CEO plans to hand over the company to his daughter, meaning 2, to give something to someone, often unwillingly. The police ordered him to hand over his license. Reluctantly, the kid handed over his last piece of candy. I believe that they should have reversed the order of this one, because with the previous one, we wanted to talk about the physical, literal meaning first, and then, based on that, talk about the less physical, less literal one, right? So let's start with meaning 2, because I think that's a better one to talk about first. To give something to someone, often unwillingly. Now, you could use it willingly. That's actually fine. But if it is willingly, then it's just an action of, here's a thing I have and I want you to have it. So I'm going to hand it to you without over there. Hand me that cup. Hand me my coffee. Right? I handed it to her and then I left. So it's just a simple action. But to hand something over is this feeling of, well, I have to, even though I don't want to. Right? So let's say that someone is reluctant to give their keys to another person who wants to drive. I usually drive. Right? Another person wants to drive. It's my car. I don't really want them to drive, but they really want to drive, so I reluctantly hand over my keys to them. Suddenly the connotation is I'm not just doing an action, it's filled with this reluctance, right? Slowly he handed over his keys, hoping that his new car would not get any scratches on it, right? So there's a reluctance kind of built in, and that's something that's important to keep in mind. Here is a legal reason. The police ordered him to hand over his license. Well, there, you don't have an option, right? Now, that could be yes, you have to physically hand it over, but that is also handing over in a bigger meaning, which is to, however it happens, you could send it in the mail, relinquish it, to not have it anymore because you got too many speeding tickets or whatever. So that one could have the actual meaning of, here's my hand with a thing, my license, and I put it in your hand, right? With the toy or with the candy, the kid handed over his last piece of candy. That reluctance is very physical. You see the kid with the candy giving it to his mom or another kid. He really doesn't want to do that, but there's a physical my hand to your hand thing. So it can kind of go either way to hand over the license, even if it happens by mail, right? Even if you throw it through the police station window, you're still handing it over. There's often a phrase that's used when a police officer does something bad where they say you had to hand over his badge. Often you hear hand in, but sometimes hand over his badge, meaning give it up because you did a bad thing. Now, the other one then is control. So a position, a role. And this one doesn't have so much the connotation of reluctance anymore. So that's important to keep in mind. The reluctance is for this meaning of relinquishing a thing, whereas with passing control, there's not necessarily any reluctance in the connotation. So she handed over the presentation to her colleague. Here I am giving my presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Judy to talk about the financial side of things. You often hear people I don't know if you've ever seen the Apple presentations that they do, but they say, now I'm going to hand it over to Judy to talk about Apple Watch. And then they go, and then it's on Judy. So it's not like, what's the guy's name who has the silver hair? I forget his name, right? Craig Federighi. Craig, when he says, I'm going to hand it over to Judy, isn't thinking, damn, I don't want to hand it over to Judy, but I have to. No, it's just like I have the camera now. It's on me. I'm talking. Now I'm going to hand it over to you. So this is often totally unrelated to reluctance or not wanting to do something. It's just basically like, now it's your turn. Now you do this, and then you do this, right? So in that case, you're just handing it over to the other person to talk about what they want to talk about. But for this one, the CEO plans to hand over the company to his daughter. That now is a bit more serious, even though it's still not necessarily reluctant. Well, if the CEO is going to retire and hand it over to his daughter, do you think he's reluctant? Maybe a little bit because he doesn't want to retire or he's had a long career and it's bittersweet, but probably he's not reluctant. And in this meaning, it's not about the reluctance and it's not about that physical thing. It's about just giving a role, right? The company, the CEO position, right, to another person, right? So that's usually a fairly big thing, right, to hand over the company. So what if we had an example like this? They had to hand over they had to hand over all of the executive passwords to the FBI. They had to hand over all of the executive passwords to the new management. Two totally different things. One would be more reluctant because they're being forced to, right, because someone's looking into them. And the other would be they wanted to, maybe because somebody's retiring or a bunch of people are retiring or there's new management or whatever happened. It's not necessarily reluctant. It's just necessary for the company to run smoothly, right? So a common theme here to go from me to you, but a lot of nuances there, which I think the examples capture reasonably well. TOEFL course on Udemy is $44.99. Most of your courses are about $12. Waracorn, when you're there, put in the coupon code. The code is, what did I say it was? Launch sale. LAUNCHSALE. LAUNCHSALE. One word. That's the coupon code, and that will give you a full discount. By full, that just means the biggest discount that I'm able to give. So put in that coupon code. The reason is because on Udemy, for the beginning of a course, it's just been launched, they don't allow a course to have general site-wide promotions on it. That's a new thing that they started doing, but I can still do, if I make a promotion or a coupon code, then you can still use that. So if you go to the place where it allows you to put in that code, LAUNCHSALE. Right, let me make it simpler, okay? I'm just going to make one. It'll last for 5 days, so anyone who sees this, you can put in this. I'm going to do, I'm just going to put in, let's see, what should we do? Let's do, what are we talking about? Phrasal verbs. Doesn't make sense. Phrasal verbs, all one word. Coupon code, phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs, and it is live, PHRASALVERBS, all one word, and that is live right now, and that will work at checkout. Okay, back to it. Back to it. Where were we? Oh, yes. Okay, so we've talked about fall apart. We've talked about handover. Let's go to run out. Now, I want this to be in a different order. So actually now I wish I were in, can I switch to GPT-4o Canvas? Can I do that? Am I able to? Can I have these again? With the physical meaning first. Can I don't know if I can do this in the same chat or if I have to start a new chat. Oh, no, it's not using Canvas, I think. I don't think it's using Canvas. But okay, I think it's at least doing what I asked. Okay, meaning one. I've run out, our third of 6. To use up a supply of something. Example, we ran out of milk, so I need to go to the store. The printer ran out of ink in the middle of the project. Now, this one is often for uncountable nouns, but it can be used for countable nouns as well. Both of these, milk and ink, are uncountable nouns, things you can't count. Ink, milk, right? Because it's a thing that's going down. So I think here, for this physical meaning, and this is the physical meaning, it helps to visualize what run out would be. Well, when you see water, right, moving, we say the water is running, right? The river is running. If you see a sink, you say the water is running. Now, if it's running out, let's imagine a cup or some sort of thing with a hole in it at the bottom. What's going to happen? Well, there's a little cork, and then we go pull it out, and it runs. The water's now running, right? And where's the running? Where's it running? Out of the cup, right? Out of the container. So that's a great way to understand it. It is running out of the container. That is what it means. Now, for that reason, we're often using uncountable nouns. Water, ink, coffee, right? We're running out of coffee. And then it's often used to say, we need more. We need to replenish our supply. Now, you could say, we're running out of workers. We're running out of pencils, right? Workers, maybe people are leaving because they don't like the working conditions. We're running out of maybe laborers in the factory. We need to hire more. They keep leaving because the conditions are dangerous. Well, maybe we should just maybe we should have some safety some safety rules and make the factory safer, and we wouldn't run out so quickly. So to run out of something, whether it's countable or uncountable, to run out is to basically be on the way to having 0. Now, if you have 0, then you say, we have run out. We've run out of milk. We need to go get some more. If you say we are running out, then it's a thing that's ongoing. We're running out of milk. We're running out of coffee. Now it's not 0. It's going to be 0 soon. So we're running out tells people that we need to take action. But hopefully, if we do take action, we'll never have 0. So I have a cup of coffee this morning and I can have a cup of coffee tomorrow morning because I bought some. We never ran out. But if we ran out completely, then maybe I had to skip a coffee for a day because I didn't have any. I completely ran out. Now, you can use this for less physical things to run out of ideas, to run out of time, right? To run out of maybe energy, to run out of inspiration. You can use it for all kinds of things. It's not just missing a supply that you can count because, running out of inspiration, it's not like you have a tank of inspiration in your brain that you can visualize and say, that there's my inspiration tank, it's full. That might be a feeling that you have, but it's not something like coffee beans, right? You can see the coffee beans there. So you can talk about things in both ways, right, using that phrasal verb. It's very useful. Now, we can also come to an end with something. My patience is running out. Time is running out. It's exactly the same. So for this, I would say the physical meaning and the non-physical are so close, we can kind of consider them to be the same meaning, just represented in different ways, right? The only difference really is that for the non-physical one, often we can't really say exactly what it means to have it or not have it. It's very subjective, right? What does it mean to run out of ideas? Well, it means I don't have any right now. But how many did you have to begin with? Well, that's kind of hard to say, right? Because the ideas are things that kind of float around in your mind. And you could just get another one for no particular reason. You see a bird hit a building and then shake itself and fly away, and you suddenly have a new idea. So it's a little more fuzzy of a concept. But the basic idea is exactly the same. Now, I see one missing here that I want to say, which is actually different. To run out of a building is to physically be running, right? The squirrel ran out of its hole in the tree because the forest was burning down. Or we ran out of the house at 3 a.m. because we heard the fire alarm. Thankfully, there was no fire. So that's very simple. We're inside and we go outside, and we do it by running. That's very, very simple, very basic meaning, but also something important to know. Okay, how about hold off? Okay, let me check meaning 1 and meaning 2. Okay, all right. To prevent someone from advancing or succeeding, the soldiers held off the enemy for hours. The goalkeeper managed to hold off the opposing team's attacks. Meaning 2, to delay or postpone. Let's hold off making any decision until we have more information. They held off the project launch to fix a few bugs. Okay, so this is more like levels of severity. If you picture the goalkeeper in a football match, blocking a bunch of footballs or soccer balls, right? They're constantly being attacked by the other team, and they're managing to successfully prevent them from scoring. Okay, so you're holding off their attacks, but you could use exactly the same thing, holding off the attacks for a physical enemy in a war. They're attacking, and you hold them off, meaning they can't cross your line of defense, right? But you can also hold off, an aggressive person who's trying to sell you something, right? You held off who those solicitors on the street, right? You're able to hold them off. Or perhaps a celebrity is exiting a restaurant and their bodyguards are managing to hold off all of the fans, preventing them from, getting closer to the celebrity leaving the restaurant until they get into their car, right? They were able to hold them off or hold them back, keep them at bay, all sort of similar ideas, right? So that's kind of a physical thing, but it can become less physical when somebody says, my voice broke there. When somebody says something like, well, what's the story? Who's Odysseus's wife? What is her name again? I can't remember. Let me look this up. Who is the wife of Odysseus? in the Odyssey? Her name is, oh yeah, Penelope. Okay. So Odysseus in the Iliad, he's in the Trojan War. He's gone for many years fighting the Trojans. In the Odyssey, then, he's trying to get home, right? Iliad and the Odyssey, classic epic tales. Mythology, history woven together. And on the way home in the Odyssey, Homer talks about Odysseus, right, who's going on this epic journey. Meanwhile, his wife, Penelope, is at home, and she is basically dealing with a bunch of suitors who are saying, hey, listen, your husband's not coming back. He's probably dead. Marry one of us, right? So she's holding off the advances of all of these suitors for how many years? Many years. I forget how many years. 10 years? Many years. 10 years. 10 years, I think. So she's holding off all of these suitors for 10 years until her husband comes home. There's a challenge. He wins the challenge, and then I think he kills all of the suitors. But she manages to hold them off for 10 years. So that's kind of physical, non-physical. She's, even if they never actually saw any of the suitors, she could be, basically just, that could be happening by text, right? They're texting her, hey, listen, your husband's probably dead. Let's go out sometime. And she could text back, no. Or, send a frowny face or use a GIF or something. She's still holding them off. It's not about the physical action of, hey, no, stay away from me. It's more about the concept of they're trying to marry her, and she is using different methods to prevent them from doing so, basically. And that could be physical or non-physical, but it's probably less about the actual physical confrontation. Actually seeing them in person is more about responding to letters or telling messengers, lies and sending them elsewhere, something like that, right? So it's two different ideas, but the same basic idea, right? And then the other one is to delay or postpone. We hold off making a decision until we have more information. They held off the project they held off the project launch to fix a few bugs. So this is where we want to do it. We're going to do it. It's going to happen, but there's just a simple delay happening, right? I held off starting to talk about the phrasal verbs I was going to talk about because I had to check my slides, but then actually I noticed there was an issue, and so I had to change, and we're doing it this way, which I think is a good way. I actually like doing it this way. It's more exploratory, and it's more fun for me. I had slides ready to go, but we had to change directions. So I held off doing that. But talking about phrasal verbs was going to happen. So I just kind of delayed it a little bit and made some noises until I figured out what we were going to do, right? So there's an inevitable aspect to using it this way, and it's more about time. It's more about when rather than whether or not it will happen. With Odysseus, Penelope is holding them off. She held them off. It never happened. She never married any of them. It's like defending yourself. You don't want it to happen. Whereas it's going to happen. We're just delaying a little bit, right? I held off telling you the bad news because I didn't want to ruin your day. So you know some bad news, and you know it's going to ruin this person's day if you tell them. And we're going out to do something really fun, so I'm not going to tell you. We do the fun thing. It's fun, and then later I tell you. I held off telling you because I didn't want to ruin your day, right? So I did have to tell you, but I needed to delay a little bit. Okay, we have two more. Back out. Physical meaning of back out would be to reverse a vehicle, carefully backed out of the parking space. He backed out of the driveway without checking the road. Now, how would a person back out of something? Because if you just walk backwards, you're not really backing out, right? And it doesn't really make sense for a person to back out of a parking garage. A car backs out. So it's kind of about the shape of it, and usually only for things where no other way of doing it is possible. So to describe a person as backing out of a parking space, silly, because a person can move around any direction they like in the parking space, but the car cannot. So the car backs out because that's the only thing it can do. It can't just turn around wherever it wants in the parking space or the garage. But the person can. But what if the person is kind of in a tight space in a closet and they can't actually turn around? Well, then we could describe them as backing out of the closet, right? So we can describe a person as backing out of something, but usually only when they don't have the option to do anything else, right? So I had to back out of the closet because it was so full of clothes I couldn't turn around. So I slowly backed out. This could also be when the situation is tough, right? You walk into a room and everyone, you're about to, you want to make a joke, you're in a good mood, and then you see everyone sort of like this. They're talking about some serious news, so you slowly back out of the room. There, it's more because of the situation, and it suggests that I don't want to be in here, but I also don't want to be noticed for being in here, so I'm going to slowly exit the situation. So you hear people describe people as backing out of a room for that reason too. So he backed out of the driveway without checking the road, suggesting maybe there's a car accident happening. To withdraw from an agreement or commitment, she backed out of the deal at the last minute. They agreed to help, but backed out when they realized how much work it would take. So you've already agreed. That's the key thing here, right? You've committed to it. And so to go back on a commitment is to break a promise, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing for them to do that, but maybe because a new piece of information is there. We learned something new. We back out. So I said, and I'll be there next week on Thursday. I will be there. But then, and I promised I'm going to be there. But then something happens next Thursday, a personal thing in my life, and I have to back out, unfortunately. There, maybe I've agreed to be a presenter or something. And so they have to find somebody else. I had to back out, but I did find a replacement. I would recommend, you working with this person. I have to back out for personal reasons. So it could be a thing on a day, but it's often for bigger things, right? An agreement that you've made, a commitment that you've made to do something long term, right? So maybe you hear about talk show hosts who they get hired and then the company has to back out and change directions. This happened, for example, to Conan O'Brien, where NBC hired him to do the late night show, and then they did it, but then eventually they backed out of the deal. I think they still had to pay him because they wanted Jay Leno to do it again. It was a crazy situation, but NBC backed out of working with Conan O'Brien. They actually started working with Conan O'Brien, but then they backed out of it to bring Jay Leno back. It was a crazy situation. So she backed out of the deal at the last minute, suggesting it caused problems because she had committed to it and then changed her mind. There, maybe you say, yeah, I'll be there on November 23rd, absolutely. Then the day before, sorry, I'm going to have to back out of this one. I hope it's not too late to let you know. They agreed to help but backed out when they realized how much work it would be. There, maybe a casual agreement, but we back out when we suddenly realize we didn't really think it through as well as we should have, or we didn't know how much was going to be involved, right? It's not really blaming the person for backing out. That's not what it is, right? It's not like saying you betrayed us, you lied to us, you said you would and you're not, you're a bad person. It's not making any kind of statement like that. It's really just saying, just describing what's happening. This person said they would do this, they agreed and committed, and now they've decided that they won't. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. They could be doing it for the right reason or the wrong reason. Has nothing to do with that. How about settle down? To become quiet or calm. The crowd finally settled down after the speech started. It took a few minutes for the kids to settle down after playing outside, right? The wind settled down after a few hours. That would be a good, probably a good one as well. Or you could say maybe once things had settled down, or once everyone had settled down, I clinked my glass and started to make my toast. So everyone's kind of getting settled for dinner, right? Finding their spot, their place to sit, putting their napkin down and getting a glass of water, and finally everyone. Then I ding 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 ding. I make a toast. So it's sort of like saying once things become calm enough, and you could talk about weather events after things had settled down after the hurricane. We sent a bunch of aid trucks in with pizza and Coke Zero, right? So first we have to wait for the bad stuff to stop, and then we can do the thing. First we have to wait for everybody to get into a reasonable position so that I can do this thing. The kids were running around la 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 like crazy, and then I wait for them to do this right before it took a few minutes for the kids to settle down before we maybe watch a movie, for example, right? So how long does that take? Well, maybe a few minutes. But now that the kids are calm, we can turn on a movie. Why were they crazy? Because they were outside playing, and it takes a while for kids to make that transition. The crowd finally settled down after the speech started. They're cheering. They're excited that their favorite person is here to give a speech. They're losing their minds. And, this person is standing at the podium for several minutes just going, hi, hello, hello, hello. Everyone's cheering. And then finally, we have to start. Okay, I'm just going to start the speech. After the speech starts, people kind of become less crazy. That's the idea. But again, weather, physical things, speeches, it can be used for all sorts of things. To start living a more stable life, often with a family. You hear people say to someone who's always traveling or lives a crazy lifestyle or, is single, when are you going to settle down? The implication of that is to start a family. Sometimes people say settle down and start a family. When are you going to settle down? For a male, that could be, when are you going to get married, right, and start having kids? But it could also be for a woman, when are you going to settle down, find a good husband and have some kids? But it could also be to stop moving around so much. So, you're going to London, going to Hong Kong, you're living in South America for a few months. When are you going to settle down? When are you going to find maybe a home, buy a home? So it's got a sort of domestic feeling to it of. And sometimes when people say it, they take it as an insult. I don't want to settle down. This is my lifestyle, right? I don't want to. But maybe a parent would say that to their kids. It's maybe, you're 38 years old. Don't you want to settle down, have a family? No, this is my lifestyle. I don't want to do that. I don't want to settle down. So to each their own, right? It's just a way to say, basically, be in a stable place, maybe have a spouse or a significant other who is stable, maybe have some children, basically is the idea. They decided to settle down and buy a house after getting married. After years of traveling, that he finally settled down in a small town. Yeah, it could also be used to talk about the location of settling down, right? After years of traveling around, I finally settled down in New York City, which is my case. After traveling all over the place for 10 years, I finally settled down in New York City, where I lived for 6 years. And it was great. Okay, so that's it. We've talked about, I don't have to scroll. I want to say, give me just the list of phrasal verbs we covered with no examples or definitions. I just want the list so that I don't have to scroll through the whole thing. Okay, fall apart. Hand over, run out, hold off, back out, and settle down. 6 really common English phrasal verbs, very useful. Now, what I would recommend you do is test your knowledge. So you could take this list and you could say, you could write example sentences. So, fall apart. Let's see. My life started to completely fall apart after... And then make an example sentence and ask ChatGPT to check it for you. Am I using it naturally and correctly? You could say as a prompt, I'm going to write several example sentences using these each of these phrasal verbs. For my example sentences, I want you to let me know if I've used the phrasal verb correctly and whether or not I've made any grammar mistakes in my sentence. And then you'll get some feedback and make that part of your exercise, part of your practice. That's how you go from just knowing it and understanding it. Maybe you understood all of the examples and you understand me talking through them. Well, that's one thing, but really making them stick and really starting to use them on your own, that's another thing. So to go from just knowing them to knowing how to use them, you've got to make your own sentences. You've got to practice. You could also make a multiple choice quiz with all these. Make a difficult multiple choice quiz with all these phrasal verbs. You could do that too to help me practice. And so there I could say, first one, which of the following best fits the phrasal verb fall apart in this context? After years of mismanagement, the company started to... Wait, is this one question? Which of the following best fits the phrasal verb fall apart in this context? Oh, well, it's got fall apart in it. I'm confused by the first question. Let's try to regenerate that. The first question makes no sense. Am I crazy? Oh, maybe I'm using the wrong model? What's going on? What's going on? Why does the first question... Am I crazy? Does the first... Okay, let's try this. Oh, let's use preview. Come on. Let's do it. Do it. Let's use preview. Okay. Give me my quiz. Preview is pretty good, by the way. It thinks longer. O1 preview actually takes time to answer your question, and the longer it takes, the better the results tend to be. It's not really better at writing or anything like that, but it tends to be better at reasoning and thinking through and giving results that make more sense. So hopefully we'll get a good quiz here. Wow, it's really taking its time. Mapping out options, piecing together, assessing options, assessing scenarios, evaluating options. 44 seconds. Wow. This better be good. Okay. After the company lost its biggest client. Oh, okay. This is good. We've got some questions with, I think this is good. After the company lost its biggest client, their entire strategy began to blah, leading to massive layoffs. Their strategy began to run out. I think break down. So one is A. The strategy began to break down after the company lost its biggest client. Okay, yeah, I think... Well, you could say that the strategy began to break down or fall apart. Okay. Do we have all of them here? Also, wait a second. Hold on. Why are they giving me one that's not even in our original phrasal verbs? What? Wait a second. Okay. Why would it be one that's... Okay, let's do the second question. The authorities demanded that the suspect blank the confidential documents immediately. Okay, two is handover, so 2 is A. 2 is handover. The authorities demanded that the suspect hand over the confidential documents. So I'm going to go that actually 1 because it's not even an option, which is weird as a question. 1 has got to be B, not A. 3, we are running low on supplies. We need to restock before we completely run out. Okay, these are a little too easy. I mean, these are a little too easy. I wanted difficult questions. These are a little bit easy. The committee decided to blank on announcing the results until all votes were counted. So I remember that would be to... So this is 4, should be hold off, right? That should be C. 4 should be C. She initially agreed to the terms but started to blank when she realized the risks involved. She started to back out. So 5 should be B. 5 should be B. 5 should be B. And then after years of traveling, he felt it was time to buy a house. And okay, these are too easy. These are too easy. I'm not happy with this. These are too easy. 6 is A. Too easy, too easy, too easy, too easy. These are too, okay, these, come on, these, okay, we're going to change the model here. Changing to one preview. These are way too easy. Try again. Okay. I don't think this is the best way to practice, by the way. The best way to practice is to make your own sentences, right? To do it by yourself, make your own sentences. But at least we need some challenging questions. Okay, phrasal verb options: fall apart, hand over, run out, hold off, back out, settle down. Despite the initial success, the experimental prototype began to ... under extreme conditions. 1 is A, fall apart. When negotiations failed, the government decided to blank, control, hand over. Okay, still too obvious. Oh, all right, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. We're not going to mess with it. I'm going to back out of trying to figure out how to make a difficult enough quiz. These questions are too easy. So we're just going to stop here for today. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. It has been great to have you. A couple of things. Remember, you can join the Discord for free in the links in the description. If you're watching and you prefer to listen, you can do that in the links in the description. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can, if you're listening, watch YouTube and Facebook every Friday live between 12 o'clock and 1 p.m. About. Let me know what topics you want me to cover in the future. Free course in the links in the description. A 1-hour free course that you can grab. Let's see, what else? 12 months, 30% off. So that's the yearly membership price to all of the courses on the website. However, you're paying every month, right? So you're paying monthly, and you can quit any time, but you're paying the yearly membership price per month. It's 30% off. It's a very good deal. Check that out. And then also there's the new course, and the course is about the TOEFL test. Master the TOEFL test with ChatGPT and AI. It is a 12-hour course. And you might be asking, is this only for people who are going to take the TOEFL test? The answer is, well, it is for them primarily. But even if you aren't, I think it's worth it. And that's because you can push yourself in all 4 areas of your English: reading, speaking, writing, listening. You can challenge yourself with dialogues, unlimited dialogues, with feedback on dialogues, with questions related to those passages. You can simulate the entire test, work on all 4 sections of the TOEFL test, right? And it's really pretty in-depth, and it's very interactive, and I think it's very interesting. So if you want, my Udemy courses are in the links in the description. You can check out my Udemy page. And then the course, if you search Luke Pretty, the course is, hold on. The course coupon code is either, you can do launch sale or phrasal verbs. That is phrasal verbs. You can put that in checkout. So in the checkout, just put in phrasal verbs, 1 word, or launch sale, 1 word. Okay, so feel free to check that out. Again, thanks for watching. Thank you for joining. Have a fantastic weekend or rest of the week whenever it is that you're watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.